Hello, it's Proverbs Saturday. My name is Jack Heineke, and today's is the very first in a series of Proverbs Saturdays, and today's Proverbs comes from chapter 1, verses 7. And I use the Amplified version of the Bible that goes into more detail than the other translations do. The reverent fear of the Lord, that is, worshiping Him and regarding Him as truly awesome, is the beginning and the preeminent part of knowledge, its starting point and its essence. But arrogant fools despise skillful and godly wisdom and instruction and self-discipline. The term fear of the Lord is a troubling term as people ask, well, why should we be in fear of a loving God? According to the Amplified version, which I use more often, it says that fear of the Lord means worshiping and regarding Him as truly awesome. Regarding God as truly awesome sounds easy, as does worshiping Him. So all I have to do is sing some songs at church and think He's an awesome dude? Well, not really. First of all, worship is more than singing songs at church, although that is an awesome and godly way to worship God. Worship is how we respond to God in every moment of every day. The word worship denotes recognizing and appreciating what is worthy of worship. The trouble with our worship is that we often end up worshiping all kinds of unworthy targets such as money, relationships, prestige, power, a specific car, rock stars, the next thing we tell ourselves that we need to buy, and on and on and on goes that list. We worship ourselves by building a God of our understanding or liking, who can be a higher power that doesn't judge us for our sin. We can pick and choose the attributes of an imaginary higher power that's just not real, and that's what we end up worshiping. This is why the first of the 10 Commandments states that, "You shall have no other gods before me." All of us are prone to creating idols out of whatever suits us. Not only is this wrong, it's dangerous. God alone is God, and He demands that we treat Him as such. And not doing this leads to perishing. We can worship religion or atheism. We can worship the extremely wrong notion that I'm a good person and most other people are idiots. That seems to be one of the most common things that people worship, which is themselves. The question is, are any of these things or ourselves truly worthy of worship? I've known and heard people who proclaim out loud that they are God. There are spiritual belief systems that teach this notion. My question to them would be, well, can you create an apple right now out of nothing? And Christians are made fun of and ridiculed and even tortured and killed for what we believe, but when we look at the world of what people believe in, I don't think that belief in Jesus is all that strange. God is either worthy of worship or He isn't. There's nothing wrong with asking this question and then examining the results of that question, and then hold that same line of questioning up to everything else that man worships. And I think that you'll come away every time with God at the top of that long list. In fact, the other things won't even belong on the same piece of paper. This is why it's important to learn and to know the God who reveals Himself to man through the Bible. That one and only God who is in the form of the Trinity is the only being who can check off all the boxes of that question of the worthiness of worship and then some. This proverb states that knowledge of this God and fear of this God is the beginning and the preeminent part of wisdom. Quite frankly, we live in a foolish world for this very reason that most of mankind has rejected this God, let alone doesn't truly worship Him. Hosea 4:6 says that my people perish for lack of knowledge. And it is this proverb right here that tells us what knowledge is missing that causes people to perish. I've often thought and have seen that I live in a world that rejects God, and it shows. That as most people struggle in their lives, and then cause struggling in other lives because they have no fear of God. Disrespect of others seems to be increasing, and this proverb is the reason for it. If more people feared God and truly knew Him, it wouldn't be this way. Instead, people insist on their own way, which means those who do are arrogant fools who actually despise God and His wisdom, which is God's instructions that I desperately need in order to be Christ-like and to exert self-discipline. I can wake up in a funky mood, but I must place myself before Him every morning and be reminded of who I am and who He is. This is what's called humility, which means to know our place, which also means to know His place. Because in order for us to truly know our place, it must be measured against God Himself. It must be seen in the light of who God is and who we truly are. Because none of us are God. That's obvious. But we sure like to operate like we think we are. And that is really, truly foolishness. That moment, it takes me out of my self-centered tunnel vision and to His vision when I am able to see myself in my own place in life, which includes a lot more than what my funky mood allows me to see. Then I can go about my day and face whatever needs to be faced and to face it in a godly manner. And when I don't, I can turn back to God, ask for His forgiveness, and He is faithful and just to forgive us every time we ask. We can't ever run out of asking God for forgiveness because we need it probably on a daily basis, if not many times throughout the day. But without reverent fear of the Lord, I am right back to being an arrogant fool. And I don't like being called or thinking of myself as being an arrogant fool, but there are times in my life where that's exactly what I was being, that I was defined by those exact words. And I did not like myself very much in those times. And whenever I behave and act in those manners, I still don't like my own company when I'm like that. And since I'm the one who has to reside within this body, I think it's in my best interest to live and be as Christ-like and as godly as possible. It's not to put myself above anyone else. It's to put myself in the place where I need to be. Because in order to be one of His disciples, I have to be willing to follow Him. I have to be willing to die to myself and my own will apart from God daily. I need to pick up my cross daily. That's what Jesus says, that if you want to follow me, you must pick up your cross daily, and it means death to self-will. That is apart from the will of God. Only God can cause us to want to be that way. Not someone who thinks that they're God, not someone who stares at me with a blank stare after I ask the question, well, if you're God, create an apple out of nothing. Because they're not God. None of us are. And it's so important for us to know our place. The world doesn't like that. The world hates words like obedience and submission because we think we're going to lose something in that whole equation. But the fact is that we don't lose, we gain. Jesus tells us that. He tells that whoever is willing to lose their life for my sake will gain life. I've taken him up on that offer. Guess what? It's true. Or either I'm just a delusional fool and you know what's best. If you are in opposition to these positions in life, God wants us to follow Him because God always knows what's best. And God is God. And so I hope you have an awesomely blessed day today.